Hi, okay, so my lesson today is going to be on 4th grade social studies, and my lesson objective is students will be able to differentiate between the different landforms and features in California, such as the coast, the valley, desert, and mountain landforms. I also put 2 extra, which is understanding our big question that we're going to be talking about during the lesson, which is what are some kind of landforms we have here in California, which is all of them. And analyze how some of the landforms on our Earth are made and what is consistent in each region. So for example, we live in one of the 4 regions, which is the Valley, and the Central Valley is known for agriculture, and it's a big part of California because a lot of our crops grow here in the Central Valley, and it's important for students to know that we live in a very important region. So the Common Core standard I addressed is students demonstrate an understanding of the physical and human geographic features that define places and regions in California. So in order for me to grab interest in my students, I would introduce the subject of landforms and ask them what they think a landform is and what sparks their interest on Earth's natural resources. This will help me introduce the topic of landform and kind of build upon of what they already know. Next, I have 2 videos in mind to show the students. The reason why I chose 2 videos was because one's on landforms and one's on specifically talking about California's 4 regions. And I think it's important for students to be able to watch the videos because I will be showing my lesson on Zoom, and so I will share the screen with them and I will play these 2 videos on it. So that way they have access to the videos after the lesson. It'll be placed onto Google Classroom, so they will be able to watch it whenever they want and have access to it. So after showing the 2 videos, I have 2 worksheets that students will be able to download, print out, color, and label to help them see the different landforms on a map physically and become familiar with it, and label desert region, mountain region, coast, and valley. And then after, I have a separate map where it's California, and they'll be able to label the capital, and then it's going to have outlined of for them to write the description of desert, valley, coast, and desert onto the California map. And then from there, they can take a picture of it after decorating it and submit it back onto Google Classroom. That way students will be able to see all of their classmates' work. I think it's super important for me to provide worksheets. That way students just aren't always looking at a screen, and that way they are going to be engaging with what they already are learning about and be able to practice what they know onto a worksheet. That way that I can see where their progress is and see how they're doing. And then how I'm going to accomplish this objective is Kahoot, another technology that I will be using. It's a great way for students to practice what they know in order for me to know what they are understanding. I've made a Kahoot game to test their knowledge on some questions about California's region. Crops are made from the valley. Many national parks in California hold amazing features in nature, and I'll give students the ability to play the game through their own computer screen with the access code. And what's really cool about Zoom is that when you share a screen, you can also play the game and be on Zoom at the same time. So students will be able to talk to each other on the chat and be able to communicate with one another to help them get to the right answer. And it's super important that way. If they have any questions, they can ask me, and then I'll be able to give it to them to help guide them to the right answer during the game. Also, like I said, another technology that I will be using is Google Classroom. It's an efficient way for students to turn in work in assignments, and receive comments from their peers to work on classwork. This is what I've always done when I was in class, and it's always a good way for students to get feedback from their classmates, from me, and to see other work online. This is where students will be turning in the lesson of the 2 worksheets from this lesson. How I will personally demonstrate what students are expected to do. after the video, I plan to show a PowerPoint that will help them understand the different regions of California, like the desert, valley, coast, and mountains, including that crops are made from the valley and many national parks are in California. The PowerPoint will be displayed to them on the screen on Zoom. And I think this is also another important way for students to ask any questions if they have any, besides watching the videos and doing the worksheets. If they have any questions, and that way they'll be more engaged into the lesson. And for students to practice what they know on California landforms, they'll be able to pick a certain landform, whichever one they want, desert, valley, mountains, or the coast, and they'll be able to grab pictures, videos, little clip arts, and they will be having to give a little short description of the landform they chose and how it affects like human activity. Like also that we live in an important region, which is the Central Valley, and we are known for agriculture and our crops, and our region is very dependent upon from other states and our state as well. And this will all be done on a Google document, and then from there they can submit the document they have onto our Google Classroom. That way I can see it, but also their peers can see it, and they can engage in what their peers did and be able to compare and contrast what they did with their peers. And a way for me to check for understanding, I will go back to all of their submitted assignments and on Google Classroom and see their progress on their work. The reason why I provided the worksheets, the Google document, the game that is going to be my closure, and the PowerPoint was for them to be more engaged with the lesson. Given the circumstances of being on a virtual lesson, it's important for them to engage with the lesson and be able to not just listen to me talk the entire time, but to also engage with the worksheets and be able to ask questions when they can. That way I can see them do all the progress from all the assignments, how they did on their own, and without any of my help. And for my closure, I chose the game of Kahoot. Kahoot is a great way for students to practice what they know. And in order for me to understand their understanding so far, and understand all the objectives that are given, I've made a Kahoot game to test their knowledge on some questions about California's regions. It won't be that long. It's probably going to be at least maybe 6 to 10 questions. Some of the questions that I have put on are how many regions are there, which there are 4. Which region has the hottest climate, which is the desert. Which region do we live in, which is the valley. And what can you find in the mountain region. What the cool thing is about this, since I will be doing my lesson on Zoom, and I will be able to share this screen with them, so they'll be able to play while they're still on Zoom. And it's super important, that way they can have the mics on, they can all engage with each other and ask questions if they need help, and be able to work with each other. So my goal for this lesson was for students to obviously learn about social studies and different landforms in California, but I also wanted them to be engaged with me and their students. It's super important that students are engaged during the lesson. That's why I provided the YouTube video, that way they get a break from me talking, and also I provided the 2 worksheets, that way they are able to show what they know from what they learned. And it's super important that students are engaging with their other peers. That's why I provided the Google Classroom, where they can talk to me, talk to their classmates, and be able to see their classmates' work. Regardless of the situation they're in, I really hope that I'll be able to present the lesson in a way where they'll be able to learn and engage and practice what they know. And I really hope the adaptations really help the student that needs help, a really good accommodation for them to be one-on-one with me on a Zoom session, and be more personal, and be able to learn the material in an accommodated environment. And lastly, when it comes to adaptations, a lot of the students that I observed over the course of the semester usually needed help, especially one-on-one, given they are English as a second language. Being in an environment with many distractions, including being at home, will disrupt a student's focus on learning the material, especially being on Zoom and having students be able to engage with each other. Some students might have a difficult time doing that and need the extra one-on-one help. So in order to do so, I will offer my help afterwards, a Zoom session to see where the particular student is comprehending the concept that way, and I can give them my undivided attention. From there, I'll be able to give them more help, whether it be on the homework, any part of the lesson that they need more clarification on. Doing this will help a student be able to learn the material in an accommodated environment.